Hi guys, and welcome back to Chaos Head NoAH. Yesterday was a crazy one. Today we have the Kozue route. Yeah, I'll just get right into it. Could she be here to help me? Okay. Yes. This transfer student must be a professional exorcist. Yes. She acts real. That's all it is. An act. She must be here to kill Remy. The two of them should just kill each other. No. As the final class ended, the stuffiness of the school day gave way to a restful afternoon. Alone, Orihara Kozue plodded her way out through the front gate. As she walked, her lazed motions and lowered head highlighted her frailty. With her knit eyebrows and muddled expression, it seemed as if she were holding back tears. Having just transferred schools, Kozue felt isolated from her peers. However, that was only natural for her. She would rarely, no, would never speak. Even when called on by a teacher to solve a problem or read from a book, she would just fidget in her seat, tears welling in her eyes. Not a single person in the school had ever heard her voice, neither student nor teacher. Kozue constructed walls between herself and them, and those made curious by the novelty of a transfer student were quick to drift away. Even then, one or two inquisitive classmates were still determined to speak with her, but she had no desire to open her heart to them. Still, she never felt that her situation was particularly urgent. Even though it was only one person, she did have a friend, an older girl who was not in her class. Given that Kozue was new in town, the girl was the only person in all of Tokyo that she could confide in. Other than herself, she felt that she did not need to make friends. She did not need to get along with her classmates. All she really wanted was to continue living her quiet life. Dun, 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 dun. Just kidding. On this evening in Shoto Park, one could hear the sounds of children playing alongside the pond's bank. A boy happened to pass right by Kozue on a trail along the waterside. In his hand, he held a petite mirror that displayed the face of its owner. Two housewives, likely the mothers of the children at play, were chatting on a bench. Kozue could hear their voices clearly.
三面鏡の怪奇ビデオっていうのがものすごく怖いのよ。
あら、そうなの？私それ知らないわ。でも三面鏡って？
What is the deal with you and mirrors?
ほらあれよ、鏡3つ並んでるやつ。
ああ、鏡ね、三面鏡。それでどんな怪奇ビデオなの？
This is like group stalking, I believe. Kozue stopped dead in her tracks near the bench. Her forehead became sickeningly slick with sweat. The women put their talk on pause, glancing questioningly at the odd girl before them. Suddenly becoming aware of herself, Kozue rushed away from the park. Mirrors. For Kozue, they were a source of great psychological trauma. Not wanting to recall the past, she frantically fought to keep the memories from flooding her mind. She told herself that she was overthinking it, and again continued walking toward the station. As she approached the front of Bunkamachi, her eyes were assailed by light, a glaring and radiant light. There's a Bloodtune poster there. Kozue shivered in fear. So many times in the past, she'd been assaulted like this, by reflections in the mirror. Her mind overflowed with panic, unable to hold down her nightmarish past any longer. Was it a coincidence, or was she being targeted? She looked all around, praying it was just a misunderstanding. A short distance away, a white station wagon came to a stop. A man leaned out the driver's window. In his hand was a mirror. He seemed to be adjusting its angle. The light struck Kozue's eyes again and again. Frightened, she raised her hands in order to block the light, dashing across the pedestrian scramble in order to escape. Her mind ran rampant with terror and disorder. She wanted to get home as quickly as possible. She did not want to be here. Tears streamed down her face. It has to be a coincidence. She desperately repeated these words to herself, wiping away the tears with her fingers. Just then, light assailed her eyes once again. Its glare dazzled her, violently piercing her gaze. The car from earlier had followed her. This time, only the driver's arm protruded from the window, and in his hand, he still held that very same mirror. Snapping out of her trance, she put everything she had into running for the station. She bumped into numerous pedestrians while pushing through the crowd. The fear kept her moving, paying no mind to all the mockery and insults sent her way. Upon arriving at the station, she turned around, only to find the white car stopped at a traffic light at Scramble Crossing. Kozue hid under the shadow of the Hachiko statue, huddling in place with bated breath, struggling to comprehend all that had happened. In her head, the same phrase repeated like a broken record. It's just a coincidence. 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 It's just a coincidence.
セーラー服萌え
Startled by the voice, she lifted her head. A man, seemingly a college student, stood by the Hachiko statue as if waiting for someone. He stood alone, his back turned to Kozue, and spoke into the phone pressed against his ear. His voice echoed in her head. That sailor suit was so hot, it was on fire. That sailor suit was so hot, it was on fire. The man did not turn toward her. The phone remained against his ear. He seemed to be listening to whoever was speaking on the other end. However, not once did the man chime in or nod. He simply stood there, still as could be. Was he really on the phone?
瀬戸内の花嫁最高
The voice echoed once again. Yep, seems like group stalking. She cannot understand how or why, but the man was speaking of things related to her painful past. She began to tremble. It frightened her to even so much as look at the man. She slowly crouched down on the spot, covering her ears. It's all a coincidence. This is all one big coincidence. She continued silently chanting this to herself. As she sat there, crouching in place, an hour passed. Many people had passed by, but none tried to speak to her. When she finally managed to timidly raise her hand, she found that the man was long gone. Before let's look at Ayase's sword. Oops. Dahlia. Ayase's D-sword, with its complete and utter absence of straight lines, represents the true embodiment of chaos. When Ayase materialized the sword, she modeled it after a mythical dragon, which is why the sword takes on a far more organic form than the other D-swords. The dragon appears in the severed verses of the Lone Black Knight, a part of the Gladiol saga in which one of the Black Knights slays a dragon, then forges a sword from its bones. So, I'm guessing that just all of the D-swords are named after a flower. That seems to be the case here. There was little indication that there were any people present in the back alley of Sentogai. The breathing of a girl, Orihara Kozue, could faintly be heard resounding through it. She cradled a gargantuan sword, or perhaps it was not a sword. Its unique shape brought its identity into question. It was more akin to a snowboard. The sharpness of the blade could not compare to one. However, its surface was stiff, and it exuded a brutish aura. Wielded against another person, it could slice through them with ease, all while grinding every bone in their body to dust. Maroon blood trickled down the blade, clinging to its edges. A young man in front of Kozue attempted to crawl away. Despite the puddles of filthy water, he tried desperately to get even a little bit farther away from her. Kozue's face held a brilliant grin as she stared at the man. There was no trace of her usual cowering, timid personality. She was enjoying herself. Her cheeks were flushed, perhaps from excitement. The sword in her hand had been used on 2 others before the man, and it had been a remorseless bloodbath.
Kozupiissed not gonna kill you, but baddies need to be punished.
The faces of the vulgar young men were bloodied and swollen. Until only moments ago, they had been tormenting Kozue's classmate, Ishijo Takumi. She had heard the voices of their hearts by chance. Multiple boorish voices had wrenched their way into her head as she was passing by.
Piece of shit, don't look out.
Piece of shit, don't look down on me, you freak die. I'll beat you to death, you little shit. But that cunt will whoop your ass, fucking die. Esper, shut your goddamn mouth. Fuck, I'm so pissed off, I'm gonna end you. Stupid bitch gave me the cold shoulder. This is revenge, fucker. Shut the hell up. We're on hell fucking die already, you fake fucking Esper. The hell it doesn't take to kill you. Fuck, just die. This shit's just what I was told to do. The shit, get the money. I'll make a shit ton of money. I fuck him up, I get the money. I want money, I beat him to other shit. I'll fucking kill you, kid. I'm gonna slaughter you. I'll tear you to pieces. Christ, it feels good beating people to a pulp. There's nothing fucking better. I swear it's like I'm fucking high or something. For real, this is fucking fantastic. I don't give a shit about the world. There's nobody who can fucking stop me. The police won't do shit. My old boss won't do shit. My fucking mom won't do shit either. Nobody but me is on the fucking top. There ain't nobody better than me. I'm at the top of the fucking world. Bitch, stay still so I can kick the shit out of you. Holy shit, I'm awesome. I want to kill them. From the cluster of voices formed by perverse hearts, a single voice of rage and hatred rose above. Recognizing the heart's outcry as Takumi's, Kozue had come running to where he was. And she had then attacked the bad men. One more person, and justice would be dealt. The threat to Nishijo Takumi and herself would be eliminated. For that reason, Kozue refused to let the young man crawl away. There would be no escape. I take it back, I'm sorry, I'll die, I'm gonna die, you'll fucking kill me. I'll die, I don't wanna die, it's not fair, don't kill me, I'm gonna fucking die, my guts will spill everywhere, I don't wanna fucking die, I wanna keep living, I wanna live a good life, I wanna do all this stuff I always wanted to do. The young man's heart frantically pleaded for mercy. Kozue's wide smile did not fade. Damn! She gripped him by the back of the head, grabbing a fistful of hair, and forced him upright. She accomplished this despite the immense disparity in their physical appearances. Lacking the willpower to resist, tears welled up in his eyes as he begged for mercy from the innocent little girl. Kozue's answer was a swift denial, but it was not one she voiced aloud. She simply mouthed the word one letter at a time with her small mouth. N. Damn! Lifting it above her head, gargantuan sword roared as it approached the man. With one blow, his jaw was pulverized. His shrieks reverberated throughout the alley. The man was blown away, then collapsed in a heap. Blood would have spattered all over Kozue's clothes, but she used her blade to shield herself, allowing her to avoid such an event entirely. With a nod of satisfaction, Kozue erased her sword. She then glimpsed at Nishijo Takumi, who was collapsed in the corner of the alleyway. Well, I guess this is a canon expression of hers after all. Breathing loudly, her heart murmured,
Kozupi wanted to kill them for you, but Kozupi's gonna stop here.
Yandere alert.
またあの車だ。
Before Shinsen Station, Orihara Kozue stood petrified. Over the past several days, she'd been going home from here rather than Shibuya Station, all because of the white car that had been following her. And today, the white car appeared once more. As if waiting for someone, it was parked in front of the station. Stricken by this, Kozue froze dead in her tracks. The passenger side window slowly began to roll down, before stopping nearly halfway. Suddenly, the hand of the passenger emerged from the opening. Within their palm, a handheld mirror was clutched tightly. Through her eyes, it felt almost as if they were taunting her, goading her. The raw terror alone made her feel as if she may stop breathing at any moment. Refusing to wait even a moment longer, Kozue whipped around and took off running. Lure them into a quieter place and then slice their car in half. Focused entirely on her attempt to get away, she had no capacity to maintain proper footing, falling and scraping her knees many times as she sprinted. Upon reaching Miyashita Park, she took refuge on a bench and continued trembling well into the night. When I think about it, I wonder if the scene we saw of her beating up the delinquents there, whether or not it was a case of this time she's the one that beat them up, or if it's just a case of she was always the one that beat them up. Because in ending B, during the flashback to the Dokyun puzzle murder, they say that Takumi is the one that beat them up. So, Focused entirely on her attempt to get away, she had no capacity to maintain. Okay, yeah, I already read this, sorry. However, she could not afford to embrace her knees forever. Despite her fears, Kozue decided it was finally time to make her way back to Shibuya Station. When she reached it, it was parked there too. The exact same car from before.
やだやだよ
Though she had no destination in mind, she bolted once again. Tears poured down her cheeks with no end. Doubt was all that filled her mind. Who could possibly be in that white car? What could they possibly hope to gain by harassing her? When she came to her senses, she realized that she had found her way back to Shinsen Station. Given that the car had been at this very station earlier, the last thing she wanted was to return to it. Taking her chances, she entered an unfamiliar, narrow alley. Due to the lack of streetlights, the area was incredibly dim, something that only served to magnify the already intense dread in Kozue's heart. But at this point, Kozue was already drained. She did not have the energy to continue running. Wiping away her tears, she kept up her desperate struggle, stumbling every other step of the way. And right when she thought she was about to hit the main road, the white car passed in front of her. Kozue was shocked by its sudden appearance. It then traveled approximately 50 meters away from Kozue before stopping on the shoulder of the road. Its hazard lights flickered to life.
やだ
She lost all willpower to run. No matter where she ran, they would always find her. As if it were reading her mind, the car would always anticipate where she would be. Sinking to the ground, she cradled her head in her arms.
助けて誰か助けて
Within her heart, she cried out for salvation, but in the end, not a soul came to her rescue. Even as Kozue began to stagger away in a fit of tears, the vehicle remained parked, and to the very end, whoever was inside made no attempt to show themselves.
最近渋谷はますます物騒だよ
Oops, that was new dialogue.
No, I couldn't rely on Rimi anymore. I had even gone to school today just to see her, but she hadn't been there. Almost like she was never there to begin with. So I had to find someone else. Someone else who I could rely on to protect me. And the first person that came to mind was...
昨日も怖そうなゴキゴキ男たちに拉致されそうになっちゃったからドカドカドカーンってしてやったのら
She was as far removed from normal as could be, and also a pretty big idiot. But because of that, something told me that if I had to depend on her, she might actually hear me out. Upon entering the classroom, I looked toward Rimi's seat. There was no one there. Next, I looked over at Kozupiissed desk. She was in her seat, face down and huddled up.
おはようたくみちゃん
Morning, Kozupi. I didn't make eye contact, but I greeted her with my inner voice. The female Dokins were watching me smirking. Oh, oops, okay. Taking a seat, I pretended to fall asleep, and then I called out with my mind. Kozupi, can you hear me?
はいはいなんでしょう
I need your help. If I don't get help fast, someone is going to kill me.
殺されちゃうの
Yeah, that's why I want you to protect me. You can use your D sword.
それよりそれよりたくみちゃんコズピーのことバカそうって思ってるでしょ
Oof. Exposed.
おいやっぱりたくみちゃんひどいのそれにコズピーはね誰でもドカバキってするわけじゃないよあのねコズピーはコズピーに悪いことしようとする人だけドカックシャペキーってしてあげるの
Okay, does everyone around me think I'm stupid? What is this? I'm just a poor innocent otaku who hadn't done anything wrong. All I want is to just shut myself inside my base and spend the rest of my life in there. I swear to God, it's like everything around me is screwing with me. God, what the hell? What did I do to deserve this? I've done nothing wrong. I'm a good person. Dokuns, they're the bad ones. And Shogun, too. Please, Kozupi, I need your help. Protect me from them. You even said it yourself the other day. Those cockroaches that say all those horrible things to me, they're even more worthless than I am.
言ったかもかも。でもね、コズピーはその将軍さんって人知らないよ。
I know him all too well. He's this kid that looks like an old man, and he rides around in a wheelchair. And one day, he's going to show up out of the blue and kill me right then and there. He's the one who stole Nanami away.
そっか、たくみさん大変なのね。
Is that really all you have to say?
殺したいけど、殺しちゃダメってセナさんに言われてるなら。
Shit. Even Kozupi was on better terms with Senna than I was. With my head still down on my desk, I gritted my teeth and clenched my fists. What do I do? There's no one I can turn to except Kozupi. Senna kinda scares me, and even if she didn't, I doubt she'd have any interest in helping the likes of me. The only one I could rely on was Kozupi. The school bell rang, bringing the day to a close, and me straight out of the classroom. Just like always, the class's token dokuns were making fun of me for the whole Esper debacle. Just today alone, they'd already come after me at least 5 separate times. Seriously, didn't they have anything better to do? Could bullies like them only get their kicks from picking on others? The hell was wrong with normies? And people thought they were actually human. Don't make me laugh. Shutting myself in my base to play ESO, immersing myself in dazzling delusions with Seraton. That was what made me happy. Very happy. God, I was so pissed off. So pissed off, in fact, that I've been doing nothing but cursing out those Dokun fucks inside my head the entire way home.
たくみさん。
I felt Kozupi poke my shoulder from behind a few times.
一緒に帰りましょう。
Do you really have any interest in protecting me?
でもね、たくみさんにプレゼントがあるのです。
A present? For me? Look at me. I think I just raised a flag.
ほぴ？フラグって何？
Stop narrating to yourself, Takumi.
Oh, it's nothing.
というわけでね、この間の憩いの場所にレッツゴーなのら。
Somewhere nice and relaxing. Oh, God. I knew it. There are no people around, so the description is pretty spot on. Then again, it is just a staircase, so that only makes sense. So why is it that I can't seem to calm down? Maybe it's because of the employee downstairs. It feels like he's been keeping a close eye on me. Or maybe it's because Kozupi and I are speaking telepathically. We aren't making any noise, so from an outsider's point of view, we probably just look like a bunch of freaks making faces at each other in total silence.
コズピ、キモいかな。
I mean, when you just stare at people while staying completely silent, what do you expect?
でも内緒話を聞かれることはないよ。
What? These are supposed to be secret?
しないつもりなの。
The The sheer amount of energy you have really does tire me out. Some things never change, though.
ごめんなさいなのら。コズピー疲れるかな。なるべくね、疲れないようにするの。
Whatever. Can we just go back to what you were saying? Didn't you say something about a present?
そうそう。コズピーはいっつもお友達になった人にプレゼントしてるのです。
As she spoke, Kozupiissed started rummaging around in her bag.
セナさんにもあげたんだよ。
Food!
そうだ。たくみちゃんはキャンディさんなめなめするかな。
Alright, Takumi food review. Mr. Candy.
She offered me a piece of candy. Just what the hell did she actually keep in her bag?
Well, then again, they say that the quickest way to a man's heart is food. True for me, anyways. Yep, Senna's totally gonna be Crunchy-kun. So what is Rimi's food gonna be?
For now, though, I just took the candy, unwrapped it, and popped it in my mouth. It was lemon flavored. The tangy flavor spread throughout my mouth. Pretty refreshing, honestly. Was that the present, Kozupi?
違うよ。それはね、コズピーがいっつもなめなめするキャンディさんなのら。
You just expected me to know
プ
that?
レゼントはこれなの。
She happily pulled out a number of fanciful accessories from her bag, each one made up of a bunch of colorful beads. The hell are those?
Wait, sorry, I need to check something. Yep.
ブチュブチュさんです。ブレスとか携帯のストラップとか指輪もあるしヘアピンもチャームもあるよ。
Celery phones.
Did you make all of these? By hand?
違うよ。コズピーが手芸をやろうとするとぐちゃぐちゃドッカーンってなっちゃうのら。これはね、ママが作ってくれるんだよ。コズピーがビーズ大好きだから全部ブチュブチュさんなのら。
Kozupi suddenly grabbed my hand. The sheer warmth and softness of it made my heart skip a beat.
たくみさん、ドキッでしたね。
Only because it was a surprise attack.
たくみさんがドキッてすると、コズピーもドキンってしちゃうの。
With a smile still on her face, Kozupi handed me something made out of beads. It was probably a cell phone strap if I had to guess.
はい、これあげますね。
I don't want it.
もしかしてコズピー迷惑だった？お友達にはみんなにね、ぐちゅぐちゅさんあげてるんだよ。
With a turn that would give anyone whiplash, Kozupi burst into tears. Oh, why does she have to be so quick to cry all the time? I mean, isn't this something a girl would wear? I feel weird putting it on.
そうだったのな。じゃあ、たくみさんはプレゼントされても困っちゃうだけだ。
I know this is a weird thing to point out for Kozupi, but I think that there's a missing apostrophe there. Kozupiissed.
これあげる人、2人目だったのに。ぐっそんなのら。
Depressed as could be, Kozupi made to take back the cell phone strap, and I quickly pulled my hand out it back and jammed it into my jacket pocket.
たくみさん
I changed my mind. I'll take it.
なんで
She said that she gives a present to all her friends, yet I'm only the second person to get one. In other words, Kozupi must not have any friends. So the first one she gave was to Senna, no doubt about it. Huh, I kind of feel...
登場したのですね
Shit, I forgot Kozupi can read all my thoughts. But honestly, as much as I feel sorry for you, I think we're actually the same in some ways.
あのねコズピーも同じことを思ったよコズピーが初めて学校行った時たくみさんを見てねすごく辛そうだなって思ったのらコズピーも辛かったから一緒だってほっとしたの
The same, huh? It reminds me of what Senna had told me about Kozupi's life before she transferred. She and I really are alike. We're both closed off to the world. We're both at the mercy of the malicious entities surrounding us. We both avoid crowds. We both avoid human contact. We're both afraid of people. We both like hiding away by some dimly lit staircase, making ourselves unnoticeable.
ただ普通にね行きたいだけなのにね
As she played with the clickety-clackety in her hand, Kozupi had a faraway look in her eyes.
お友達作って一緒に遊んだりして一緒にお弁当食べたり一緒にお勉強したり文化祭とかの行事を一緒に頑張ったり一緒に恋のお話をしたりそんなね普通の生活で十分だったのら特別なことなんて何にも望んでなかったよ
Suddenly, the expression on Kozupi's face disappeared. And then, she tore apart the clickety-clackety she'd been playing with. The beads went everywhere, rolling and tumbling down the stairs. I've been thinking the same thing. Why am I the only one that has to suffer like this? I always ask myself, what did I do to deserve this?
コズピーはね悪いことしたよ
Kozupi stuck out her tongue, and her smile came back. A bad thing? Do you mean the thing where you cut off your classmates' arms? Or...
殺したいって願ったもんコズピーに意地悪する人たち全員ぶち殺したいって願っちゃったもん
You really are pretty twisted.
でも悪いことを願うのは悪いことじゃないよあれね悪いことを願うのが悪いから悪いことを願うのかな悪いですねとにかく負の感情は否定されるものじゃないってへんてこなボード持ったおじさんが言ってたのら悪いことを願ったからディソードがコズピーの力になってくれるのらディソードがコズピーを守ってくれるのらだからねもう普通なんていらないの
Are you sure? Have you really given up trying to live a normal life? Are you sure that's what you want? That you won't regret it?
めんどくさいのは嫌なの世界には悪い人ばっかりだし
What about Senna? Do you think she's a bad person too?
セナさんはお友達です悪い人じゃないよ
The voice of Kozupi's heart sounded incredibly happy.
あとねたくみさんもだよブチブチ友達なのら
If we all could think like Kozupi does, life would probably be a whole lot easier. Is the reason Kozupi thinks this way because she was broken at some point in the past? It's not really something I can answer. While I might complain all the time about the world around me, inside my head, that is, at the end of the day, all I want is for someone to help me. That's all I ask. While I may have thought we were similar, I guess Kozupi and I really are different.
一緒ななら
For some reason I didn't understand, Kozupi seemed very convinced of that. She then vigorously stood up.
こいじゃ帰りましょう
As soon as that left her mouth, Kozupi raced down the stairs. And then, in a display that was very in character for her, she slipped and fell on the very last step. The inside of Raft was as packed as ever. With a slight limp, Kozupi made her way through the building. There were tears in her eyes. Are you okay?
転ぶのは慣れてるよ
Kozupi flashed a brave smile. But that smile quickly faded. Kozupi stopped dead in her tracks, and her gaze shot straight behind me. I glanced over my shoulder to see what she was looking at. I saw a bunch of mirrors for sale. Everything from hand mirrors to full-on dressers were on display. With a stiff expression, Kozupi looked away from the mirrors and started to quickly walk away.
たくみさんまた明日ね
The voice of her heart, not even a trace of the energy from before. I ran after Kozupi, but I had taken too long to do so, and now I couldn't see her anywhere. I hadn't said anything to her about wanting us to leave together, but she was the only person I had left. Losing her started to make me freak out, and I could feel the anxiety slowly welling up. Being all by myself, especially in the center of Shibuya, I really didn't like it. The mere sight of the human stampedes moving along caused sweat to bead all over me. So, knowing I couldn't take it, I gave up on trying to find Kozupi and decided to hurry back to my base. What was that? I'd heard something. The loud clicking sound of a camera shutter. I shifted my gaze toward the sound. I couldn't see anyone with a camera. That was when I realized the sound hadn't been an actual camera, but a cell phone. I explained why the sound had been so clear. And yet, despite that realization, I still couldn't locate anyone that was pointing a cell phone at me. Was I just too on edge? No, that couldn't be it. The social suicide would have been incredibly well known all throughout Japan, especially considering how much people freaked out over espers. So it wouldn't have been all that strange if there were people who found it amusing to snap random photos of me. The streets were overflowing with people. Well, at least none of them were looking at me. Don't look at me. Biting my lip, I continued dragging myself forward. I hung my head as low as possible so as not to be recognized. There it was again. Someone had taken a photo of me again, and this time I knew for a fact I felt their gaze on me. And it wasn't the usual God's gaze, but a gaze harboring nothing but pure malice. I looked around, and yet, after all that, there was still no one there. Who the hell are you? Sneaking photos like a goddamn peeping Tom? I'll sue the fuck out of you for violating the rights to my likeness. But it wasn't like they were ever gonna hear me cursing them out inside my head, and I very much didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Even if I did, it'd only bring even more attention to me. I went back to walking. This time, I doubled my speed, weaving as best as I could through the herds of pedestrians clogging the road. The sounds only got worse. The shudders continued to chase me. Then, I thought I heard someone giggle. I looked around again. There were a number of people holding their cell phones at eye level. A middle-aged businessman, a woman in a suit, a high school boy, and some Dokyun girl. A pretty varied selection. As I moved, they would move their phones in an attempt to follow me. Don't look at me. Don't take pictures of me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I took off running in another direction. But it didn't matter how long I ran. It didn't matter how far I ran. It didn't matter how many people I threaded the needle through. The sound always found me. The gaze always caught up to me. Every time I thought I got away from the noise, it always started up once again. In my head, it was like my enemies were multiplying without end. Eventually, I ran into a red light, forcing me to stop. Planting my hands on my knees, I tried as best I could to catch my breath, all while the noise of the shutters persisted. My gaze trained downward. I clenched my fists as I tried to stomach the humiliation. That was all I could really do at that point. Suddenly, a thought occurred to me. Was this noise really being produced by such a large, unknown number of people? Wouldn't they all be taking way too many photos? Sure, I was basically a celebrity now. But I wasn't famous, I was infamous. Photos of me wouldn't be worth jack shit. I'd say most people considered me to be a walking piece of trash. So I just couldn't get over how strange it was that the world had picked today of all days to start taking all these photos of me. And they weren't even hiding it either. Was it Shogun? Was he orchestrating this attack on me right now? Just leave me the hell alone already. What the hell have I ever done to you? What the fuck is your problem? I want to kill him. After breaking me completely while he watched from the shadows, he was finally going to kill me once and for all. This malicious harassment wouldn't be enough. It would be the next new gen case, murdered in some horrible, grotesque fashion. Therefore, I have to kill him before he kills me. I grabbed my head with both hands. I had a pounding headache. And yet, despite it all, I still didn't feel God's gaze. Despite the countless photos being taken via cell phones, Shogun's typical gaze wasn't following me at all. I want to kill him. Suddenly, everything went quiet. The rapid snapping of camera shutters completely disappeared. Surprised, I started to look up, only to hear a sound that I've heard many times before. Right behind me, within the silence, came a quiet, creaking noise that I never have heard otherwise. I sensed a presence. Someone in a wheelchair was right behind me. But who? I laughed at my own wishful thinking. Their identity was obvious. It was him, Shogun. Ignoring the red light entirely, I leapt onto the crosswalk. My eyes were assailed by a chorus of horns, and one vehicle was on the brink of running me over before just barely managing to screech to a halt. But I couldn't look back now. I had to keep running as hard as I possibly could. Even though I'd made it back to my base, I was still haunted by the sound of those shutters. Moving to a nearby residential area hadn't helped either. Even though it had been entirely deserted, I could still hear the endless clicking and clacking of the shutters. It was as if they'd been seared into my very eardrums. Every person I passed would take out their phone just to get a shot at me. Not one of them said, "Oh wow, please let me shake your hand," or "Ew," as I moved past them. No one's even so much as grinned at me. Nothing but expressionless faces taking pictures with their cell phones. So I just continued to walk past them, pretending like they weren't even there. Clearly something strange was going on. I didn't sense even a hint of malice nor ill will from them. They felt entirely mechanical. Yeah, kinda like automata, except in this case, there's someone actively controlling them. I sat in the corner of my room, legs gripped tightly around my chest as I curled up into a ball. All I could do was continue to grind my teeth out of sheer frustration. It was all him. It was all Shogun's doing. While en route to my base, I'd heard it. The sound of a creaking wheelchair. I'd only heard it once, and I hadn't turned around to check, but there was still no doubt in my mind. My hands just wouldn't stop trembling. Glancing at the time, I realized it was already 11 p.m. I'd spent 5 hours scared shitless. Letting out a deep sigh, I lashed out at him inside my head. "I hope you die, I hope you die, I hope you die, I hope you die." The worst part about Shogun was that he didn't kill you quickly. He would gently wrap a silk cord around your neck, and over time, he would slowly tighten that cord, before eventually he would suffocate. And because of that, because I knew exactly how he was, anxiety flared up within me, and I began to dread even going outside. "Help me, Kozupi. I can't fight Shogun on my own. I don't even have my own D-sword. There's nothing I can do. Kozupi, why won't you help me?" I have to think. Somehow, I had to come up with a way for Kozupi to protect me. She could read my mind, so I definitely couldn't lie to her. Then, what about money? Would she help me if I offered her compensation? That noise just now. With a horrible gulp, I squeezed myself into an even tighter ball and strained my ears for the slightest sound. I just hallucinated it. Yeah, that was the most obvious. I hadn't hallucinated it. It was the sound of a wheelchair. I could hear it coming from outside. I immediately held my breath and strained my ears even harder, trying desperately to hear any noise coming through the wall. There it was. He was outside. Maybe I was just imagining it. Maybe I was just imagining him slowly moving closer and closer to me. I wasn't just imagining it. He was wheeling around the outside of the container. I'd heard his voice. It was Shogun's laugh. He was laughing. In the dead of night, he was sitting outside my container in his creaky little wheelchair, laughing. But it didn't end there. The very next second, I heard the sound of a cell phone's camera shutter. Had Shogun taken a picture? Had he taken a picture of the container? No, it wasn't just Shogun. There were other people there. Not just 2 or 3. It felt like there were at least 10. They were all taking pictures with their phones in perfect unison. The sound of the shutters echoed off the walls and coiled into my ears. This wasn't possible. A delusion like this was just that. A delusion. If I peeked outside, surely nobody would be there. was all just some simple hallucination. Sure, the container walls were pretty thin, but there was still no way I should have been able to hear the shutters or the laughter or the wheelchair. Definitely not this clearly. I didn't have the courage to go outside and check for myself. Fear overwhelming me, I burst into tears and wrapped a blanket around myself in an attempt to cover my ears. Don't come in. 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 How much time had passed? It had only been about 10 minutes, but it felt more like 10 hours. I threw off the blanket and got up as quietly as I possibly could. I listened very carefully. I didn't hear anything outside. All I could hear was the sound of my PC. So it really had been just a hallucination. Yeah, had to have been. Just to be sure, though, I should check outside. There was no way anyone was out there, but still. Even if someone had been there, surely they wouldn't be there anymore. I positioned myself by the door. There was a padlock on the inside keeping the door locked. Retrieving the key, I stuck it inside the padlock. But I didn't have it in me to turn the key that easily. My heart was pounding out of my chest, and my nerves refused to calm down. I was terrified. The mere thought of opening my door absolutely terrified me. This could have all just been some total bait. Someone could be outside right now, biding their time as they waited with bated breath for the opportune moment to strike. I wanted to tell myself that something like that would never happen to me, but it was pointless to even try. I'd been deceived over and over again, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was so tired. Why couldn't I just be left alone? Why did I have to endure these horrible, absurd trials? They were just too much for me. Fuck. Fuck. Fuck! I slammed my fist into the door with a loud bang. The noise resounded incredibly loudly, and my hand immediately hurt like hell. Not a sound came from outside. There were no signs of anyone being out there. There was nobody there. Of course there was nobody there. You'd have to be stupid to think there was someone there. I bit my lip so hard, blood slowly began oozing out. And with that, I found the strength to remove the padlock, and then I slowly opened the door. In an attempt to investigate, I peeked my head out from my base. There was nobody there. It was still as death. Nothing moved. There was no sign of Shogun's creaky wheelchair, nor his laugh, nor the cell phone camera shutters. Nothing.
誰かいますか?
I waited for a moment, but there was still no response. But of course there wasn't. There was nobody there, so of course nobody would reply to me. That was just common sense. Nervous as could be, I began to check even further outside, shifting my gaze toward any shadowy areas I could see. Yeah, nobody was there. Everything I'd heard, I'd hallucinated. All the repeated extreme stress that had caused me to start breaking down. Yeah, that made perfect sense. I'd just gotten scared and ended up losing it.
僕涙目。もうね、アホかと、バカかと。
The sheer stress I was feeling left me trembling as I laughed at my own pathetic state. Look at this dumbass. It was laughable, really. I couldn't help but lol. Man, I was so worn out. Going back into my room, I let my serotonin figure soothe my soul. Next, I sat down at my PC and logged into FreePara. That was where I could check for new updates in the Bloodtoon community. I could also see if my friends posted any status update. What friends? A sense of dread was building within me. Something wasn't right.
Spider, what the hell are you doing in my game? You're supposed to just be making my thumbnails, not actually inserting yourself into my playthrough. What the hell, man?
His appearance. Stairs leading to rooftop. Double doors. Shower. Sink. Curtain. Container wall. Rooftop nightscape. Commemorative photograph. Beginning of the festival. Wheelchair. Arrival. Inside the rising elevator. Arrival at site.
Oh, I was reading it in the wrong order.
Arrival at site. Inside the rising elevator. Arrival. Wheelchair. Beginning of the festival. Commemorative photograph. Rooftop nightscape. Container wall. Sink. Shower. Double doors. Stairs leading to rooftop. His appearance.
Valentino, Husky.
Husky. Shidancho. Soba shop slut. Human flare. Suicide girl. Digitaro. Idomajin. Kore Terion. Master Chieri. Drabu Shuglev. Suitable. Miracle Claudia. Gingan Ein. Miku Miku. You weren't stealthy with that Husky placement. They probably intentionally put it under the message box.
What kind of serial killer uses their own name for their social media?
The list of my friends' statuses popped up on my display. None of it was from any friends whose names I typically saw. The list had been bombarded with a single name posting over and over again in quick succession, burying all other posts. That friend's name being Spider. Did I even have a friend with that handle? Well, I'd be lying to myself if I said I knew all my friends. I had over 100 of them, so it'd be stupid to make that claim. Friends with Husky on FreePara and ESO. It looked like Spider had written around 15 entries in the past 30 minutes or so. When I saw the titles of the posts, I gulped. Before I knew it, my throat had gone completely dry. For one reason or another, I was struck with an immense sense of deja vu. When I saw the titles, I had a feeling that I knew exactly what the contents would be. With trembling fingers, I moved the mouse and clicked on one of the entries.
これって
The front of this very building. The post had... Oh, Spider! Like Darth Spider! It's Sua posting! Why didn't that hit me before? Sua, you bastard. Oh my gosh. The post contained a single image, and by the looks of it, it had been taken by a cell phone. There was no text nor anything else in the post, just the image. There was no doubt that this image was at the Kurenai conference hall. It seemed to have been taken at night, too. That can't be right. was just my mind playing tricks on me. I forced a dry smile as I clicked on another post. Despite me crying out in disbelief, even I could have predicted what was to come just by reading the title. And yet, the horror gave rise to countless goosebumps across my skin, each bump like a stewing bubble of sheer dread. Those noises, they'd just been hallucinations, hadn't they? The sound of the wheelchair, the sound of Shogun's laughter, the sound of cell phone shutters. Had those sounds actually been real? Had someone actually been outside my base until only a short while ago, taking pictures and uploading them with their phone? The latest post was titled, "A Man of the Hour." The timestamp read 12:14 a.m. And right now, it was 12:21 a.m. Their last status update had only been 7 minutes ago.
嘘だよ。嘘に決まってる。
Who was the man of the hour supposed to be? Who the hell could it be? Really didn't look. But I just couldn't bear not to. I'd never be able to calm down otherwise. I quickly snapped my gaze to the door and back. I'd made sure I had to make absolutely sure the lock was on correctly. Right after I did that, scared as could be, I clicked the latest status update. It was a picture of me. Just a moment ago, I had opened the door to see who was there. I thought nobody was out there, but someone had been outside. Whoosh! Whoosh!
The one halting her was a classmate of hers, Ninomiya Minako.
折原、ちょっと話があるんだけど。
Kozue winced at the clear animosity laced in her words. Moreover, Minako was not the only one there. 5 girls stood behind Minako, lying in wait. All of them were her friends, but Kozue was unable to recall their names and faces.
いいよね。付き合ってくれるでしょ？
As she remained unresponsive and unsure of what to do, Kozue's quivering shoulders were then shoved not by Minako, but one of the other girls behind her.
ちょっとなんとか言いなよ。
Feeling entrapped by the crowd of girls, tears began pouring out from the corners of her eyes. Her captors were quick to take notice, growing even further agitated.
いちいち泣いてんじゃねえよ。いいからちょっと来なよ。
She refused to go with them, for she had a horrible feeling about the events to come. But when they grabbed her by both arms, she knew that she no longer had a choice in the matter. Kick their asses! They brought her out to the rooftop. 10 more girls were waiting up there. Nearly everyone was a classmate of hers. When she realized this truth, Kozue was left deeply confused. Kozue could predict very well what would happen from this moment. She could acutely feel the intense malice directed at her from those present. Kozue shook in fear from the sheer amount of negative delusions flowing into her. Despite her best efforts to endure, her tears simply would not stop flowing.
こいつもう泣いてんじゃん。うわ、マジ？うざくない？
Even though Kozue had only just transferred to the school, her peers held nothing back in their barrage of insults. Of course, she was well aware of the bitter hatred the girls felt for her. Try as she might to block out their inner voices in the classroom, the utter animosity they held was not something she had been able to ignore. Girl is quiet, therefore I hate you. How dare you not do anything? Yeah, screw you for, existing. But despite such a contempt, nobody had ever approached her in this matter before. She had tried to run, but being surrounded by so many of her classmates left her no route to escape with.
逃げようとしてんじゃねえよ。
美奈子が話あるんだからさ、ちゃんと聞きな。
You can't tell me like 15 girls all agreed that they wanted to just screw with her on a rooftop. Prompted by her classmate's threat, Minako glared toward Kozue with intense hatred. And just because she's silent and cries. Like, Minako's demeanor was that of a tall, rigid model, providing a heavy contrast to Kozue's small, petite frame.
折原、あんたさ、大輔に色目使ってんじゃないわよ。
Despite them talking as if she should have known it, the name Daisuke was not one she was familiar with. But these words that would defend her would never leave her mouth. She simply made herself small, shrinking to the ground in order to withstand the fierce chaos-head NoAH and confusion.
聞いてんの？うざいんだよあんた。人の彼氏に手出そうとしてんなよ。
She hasn't even said anything. Kozue frantically shook her head in denial. She had no recollection of this person at all. Then, she at last realized that the person they spoke of was her classmate, Misumi. If that truly was who they were referring to, then Kozue never had any intention of leering at him. In truth, it was quite the opposite. His entirely overt ulterior motives were nothing but a source of vexation to her.
っていうか、前から折原のこと気に入らなかったんだよね。
Because she's quiet.
ねえ、なんで喋んないの？可愛いこぶってんの？
はっきり言ってうざすぎだし、ムカつくし。それとも男子とは話せても私たちと話すつもりないって？調子に乗ってんじゃねえよ。
なんか言えよ、ブース。
They pulled her hair, they struck her face, they shoved her shoulders. There was no escape. They would not let her. Bullying, beating up. Kozue shuddered in fear as those words floated through her mind. Save me, Sena-chan. Save me, Takumi-chan. Her inner voice cried out, but it was clear that help would not arrive anytime soon. Before she had even moved here to Tokyo, this was how it had always been. No matter how much Kozue wished for someone to help her, it would never come. She had no choice but to bear it. If it were only this much, she could bear it. But that thought was just as transient as the last. From somewhere she could not quite discern, a noise faintly began to echo. The faces of her classmates immediately lost all expression. Each and every one of them reached into their jacket pockets in unison. And then, as if they had planned it beforehand, they all slowly retrieved something from within them. Yeah, it's Nozomi fucking with her. It would be weird if just like 15 people all decided to do this of their own free will. Each person held a handheld mirror, mirrors of all manner of shapes and sizes. Simultaneously, each and every girl turned the surfaces of their mirrors towards Kozue. It was like a cult performing a ritual. Within each mirror, Kozue could be seen stricken with the utmost terror, each silver screen reflecting a girl with eyes convulsing uncontrollably.
お前は誰？
The nightmares that had once plagued Kozue began to resurface. She was losing the self she knew. She could not stop trembling. She shook her head violently in denial. Her eyes wandered between each mirror. As her head shuddered and shook, the convulsions seizing her eyes continued. Kozue tried to scream, but could only muster a feeble groan. Black clouds!
kill you, I'll 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 kill you! The dominance of dark, sickly delusions began to enshroud her mind. She then became cognizant of the D-sword clutched tightly in her hands. A faint beam of red light shone across the blade, flickering with a delightful shriek. Not a hint of its brutality was left concealed. Its mere aura fiercely intimidated all those who beheld it. Everything before it fell to ruin. Everything before it was consumed. Everything before it returned to nothing. And now, as it settled, her sword resided not in delusion, but in reality. Her once expressionless classmates awakened from their trance, greatly alarmed by what was unfolding. But by then, it was far too late. Tears pouring down her cheeks, Kozue let out a scream. Her eyes could no longer see. With a single step, Kozue staggered forward. Effortlessly, she raised the D-sword above her head. At the present moment, it was Minako who was in her path. What came next would be appropriately referred to as an immediate bisection. From the left arm to the right shoulder, her body was ripped apart. In regards to what had happened to the girl, the word slash would have been far too disingenuous. Yeah, I'm guessing that they're trying to make Kozue kill people for some reason. They're trying to, like, trigger her so that she kills people for some reason. Sickeningly extreme amounts of blood burst forth from her body. As she raised the D-sword aloft, this time Kozue staggered backward. It was as if the sword itself had drawn her back. Her body moved about adroitly, almost as if she were dancing. Despite her remarkably petite frame, she swung the gigantic sword around with incredible ease. Despite being far past death, Minako's corpse was further desecrated in obscene acts of violence. The freshly spilt blood danced in the air along with Kozue and her sword, dyeing the concrete crimson. Kozue, sapped of any remaining strength, collapsed seconds later in unison with what had used to be Minako. She was sobbing her heart out, the tears forcing her eyes to remain closed. Faced with that horrific display, her classmates stared in a daze, their mouths hanging agape. Not a single one moved from where they stood. It was as if they could not comprehend what had just occurred. Swaying slowly, Kozue returned to her feet. Her head hung low as convulsive sobs assailed her. Pointed directly at her petrified classmates, blood trickled from her D-sword. The very next moment, innumerable shrieks ripped through the air, before disappearing into the sky forever. Well, she said she wanted to kill people, and she's killed 16 people. Or 15. Let me see. Yeah, 16. Damn. Usually in these routes, they're not the ones where the girl goes completely insane, so, yeah. Walking as fast as I could, I headed directly for my school. Not the time to be going there. I kept my eyes out for anyone at all. If someone even dared to approach me, I'd run away as fast as I possibly could. I've been hyperventilating for forever now, wheezing again and again. My throat desperately gasped for air. The sweat beaded endlessly on my forehead. No matter how much I wiped it away, it just kept coming. I was just going to school. I was just going to school so I could get Kozupiissed to help with whatever the hell this was. I needed her to fight the bastards that were trying to break me. Kozupiissed would definitely do it. She was completely broken herself, after all. And now she's breaking other people in half. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to kill them. Shogun and his cronies needed to fucking die. There was no doubt in my mind that the people at my base yesterday had been Shogun and his underlings. They were finally cutting the bullshit, and now they were gunning to finish the job. They targeted me, begun their extensive mission to wear me down, and now they were moving in to kill me in the sickest, vilest, most disgusting way they could possibly imagine. I couldn't take it. I didn't want to die, so I had to kill them before they killed me. That sound again! Yesterday I had heard the same exact creaking sound behind me. I whipped around, wincing in anticipation of what might come, and yet not a soul was behind me. There was no wheelchair in sight. It couldn't have been a hallucination. I'd heard it right fucking behind me. Stop stalking him, Suwa. Is Shogun still attacking me? I broke into a mad dash. No way in hell was I gonna stand around all alone. And yet, it followed me. The sound clung tightly to my back. I could hear it directly behind me as I ran. Stop it! Get away! Stop chasing me! Don't look at me! I was about to snap. I no longer had the stomach to take another look behind me. I stumbled my way to the school gate. The bell still hadn't rung. It was on the verge of being tardy, but I could still see other students here and there. Just looking at another person was enough to make me flinch. But if I didn't go in the building, I wouldn't be able to find Kozupiissed. Steeling myself, I entered the school grounds. I heard something once again. But it wasn't a wheelchair this time. It was a cell phone shutter. My gaze shot all around myself. Who the hell had taken the photo? Nobody was looking at me. Nobody had a cell phone out. Ugh, what the fuck? What the fucking fuck? I covered my ears, and without looking where I was going, I bolted. Without stopping even once, I finally made it to the classroom. I was about to burst into the room, only to frantically stop dead in my tracks and turn back around. The class Dokuns were all assembled in there. The second my eyes had met one of them, I'd given up completely on going in. God damn it. This world was plagued with my enemies. Every single person was my enemy. All of you should die. Every last fucking one of you should just die. Since I couldn't go into the room, I opted to just turn around and keep walking. Maybe a delusion or two about massacring those Dokyun pieces of shit would cheer me up. I had only glanced in the room, but I hadn't seen Kozupi. Actually, there hadn't been any girls in the classroom at all. That was pretty strange, actually. But I still couldn't care less. All I cared about was figuring out where the hell Kozupi had wandered off to. Of all times for her to completely disappear on me, it just had to be now. I was still wheezing from before, my breath violently forcing itself in and out of my lungs. When they saw me like that, the other students walking down the hall stopped and stared. Don't look at me. That sound again. Looking back, I saw 4 Dokyun guys I hadn't noticed before. They all had the biggest smirks on their faces, each one of their cell phones trained on me. Don't look at me! Ignore them. Kozupi can just kill them later on. A delusion like that sounded so exhilarating. Every last one of them had dying a horrible death. I'd had fucking enough of this world. Is this gonna be the serial killer ending? Kozupi was still nowhere to be found. I had no clue where she was. Maybe she just hadn't come to school today. If that was the case, then what was I supposed to do? I really doubted I could fend off Shogun's attempts to break me, especially for a whole day. I'd been pretending to be tough inside my head this whole time, but my knees were still shaking uncontrollably, and if I didn't stay focused for even 1 second, I'd likely sink to the floor and stay there. Kozupi, where did you go? Where the hell did you go? Please just save me. Startled, I stopped dead in my tracks. I'd heard a voice in my head that I felt like it had come from right next to me. Someone's inner voice.
コズピのせいじゃないもん。コズピのせいじゃないもん。助けて。
Kozupi, where are you? Looking around, I saw Kozupi squatting down near a corner by the entrance, cradling her head. The moment I saw her, a gasp forced its way from my mouth. Her entire body was a deep crimson, as if waves of red from an ocean of blood had crashed down upon her. No, it wasn't simply as if. She was undeniably covered in a ridiculous amount of blood. I wanted to scream, but my voice had stopped working. Kozupi! Say something! Kozupi! When I called out to her with my inner voice, Kozupi slowly raised her head. Tears were flooding from her eyes, leaving them red and congested. Without getting up from the ground, she grabbed onto my shirt. She clung to me as if her life depended on it.
何を
たくみさんはコズピの敵味方
What's that supposed to mean? I tried to ask again, but she just buried her face in my chest and shook her head from side to side. The reddish black blood coating her entire body seeped into my uniform and slowly spread throughout it. I never realized how small Kozupi truly was. Her body was so fragile. It felt like I might break it at any moment. Only when I had embraced her had I finally come to realize this.
僕はコズピーの味方だ。 だからコズピーに助けてもらいたい。
I only said what was on my mind. I was being fairly selfish, but Kozupi was the only one I could turn to.
コズピーのこといじめない？
I'm not gonna be a bully to you. The guys bullying me are my main concern. That's what's more important here anyway. I need your protection.
コズピーは守れないよ。
What do you mean? You have a D sword.
だってあの子のことうまく扱えないもん。
Him? What, your D sword? As I asked that inside my head, Kozupi nodded. She then nestled further into me.
だからね、さっきのドカバキクシャーはコズピーのせいじゃ。
Without warning, I was hit with a fierce impact. Images burst into my mind like an intense montage of flashbacks. The school, its rooftop, the fierce, rusty smell of blood, a sea of blood, endless chunks of meat strewn across the concrete, disconnected, disjointed hunks of flesh I couldn't identify. And Kozupi was standing in the middle of it all, her breathing heavy, and a D-sword in her hand. I then snapped back to myself, shocked. What the hell was that? It had definitely been the school rooftop. But what were all those other images? Had they been just a delusion? They'd been different from how my delusions usually were. Maybe it hadn't been my delusion, but Kozupi's. I felt like Senna had said something about how gigalomaniacs can make other people see their negative delusions. So maybe that was what had happened. But placing that aside for now, Kozupi's blood-stained body clung to me. The blood on her was still wet. There were no signs that she'd been hurt. She certainly wasn't acting like she had been. Therefore, the blood wasn't hers. I was trying my absolute hardest to conjure up an explanation for the amount of blood she was bathed in. There was nothing normal about this. It was utterly insane. Whose blood is that blood? Whose blood was this? Kozupi, whose blood is this?
コズピーをね、いじめた人たち。
Kozupi hung her head. She gently detached from me, then looked away as if she was in trouble. She raised her index finger to her lips. To me, it looked like she was sulking about something. Or like she was lapping up the blood on her finger. Isn't that someone else's blood?
他人の血だよ。
A feeling of dread surged up within me. Kozupi, if that really is the case, you went way too far, didn't you? The school bell rang loudly, telling us homeroom had started. There wasn't a single sign of any students around us. They had already gone to class. And so I made up my mind and began to head straight to the classroom. Trying my best to not get caught, I stealthily peeked in from the window.
これって
What I saw left me shocked. Homeroom had already started, with the teacher standing at the front of the room. And just like I'd seen before, Not a single girl was present inside the classroom. No way. I had to be sure. I had to be absolutely sure they had all just been a delusion. I took off for the roof, then flung open the door leading to it. The first thing to hit me was the somber blue sky, and the next was nothing but pure crimson. A literal sea of blood. When hit with the remnants of that horrifying scene, the physiological revulsion, the utter repulsiveness, and the overpowering stench, it all pooled together, and I could no longer keep the contents of my stomach from emptying across the concrete.
たくみさんはコズピーの味方だよね。
I jumped. When I turned around, Kozupi was standing right in front of me. Tears were welling up in the corner of her eyes. Still soaked in blood, she turned to me and smiled an innocent smile. I couldn't help but run away. I was afraid of Kozupi for smiling in that situation, for killing them so brutally. I couldn't comprehend it. The people that had been there weren't people anymore. They were in pieces, and she'd done that to them. The scene on the rooftop had been burned into my mind and refused to leave. It repeated endlessly, looping over and over again in my head. And each time it did, I was hit with the most intense feeling of nausea. I lost count of how many times I dry heaved. I ran all around the school with no real destination in mind. Homeroom had already started, so there was no one in the halls. Kozupi wasn't following me. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Was running away the smart thing to do? Or should I have stayed with her? If Kozupi saw me as an enemy because I'd run away, would I be fucked? If she started thinking of me as an enemy, would she tear me to pieces like she had with those girls on the rooftop? Oh God, no. Please, no. But if that was true, what should I have done? Even if I went back to Kozupi now, I had no idea what to do or say. I just kept on running and running, almost tripping every couple seconds. In the very next corner I went around, I nearly ran right into two people. It was Misumi-kun, together with one of the Dokyans from my class who'd made fun of me earlier. He looked at me with clear unease, while the Dokyun stepped in front of me, blocking my path. The Dokyun had the most malicious grin on his face.
Yo, Espa. お前、ちょっと超能力使ってくんね?
Do you not see the blood on his clothes?
I bit my lip. I didn't make eye contact. If I did, I knew I'd get punched right then and there. The Dokyun made no moves to take out his cell phone. If he did, however, I very well might have lost it and killed him, just like Kozupi had with those girls.
クラスの女子が授業をボイコットしたみたいだよ。誰も来ねえから、俺ら今探してるわけよ。でもだるいと思うね。ミスミやミナコが心配みてえだけどよ。どうせ集団でサボってるだけだろ。そう思うよな、エスパー。
I didn't respond, and as a result, a sharp pain ran through me as he kicked me in the hip.
おい、仕方してんじゃねえよ。やめろよ。
The second Misumi-kun spoke up, the Dokyun stopped dead in his tracks.
タク、ミナコ見なかったか。チャイム鳴るまでいたんだけどよ。今はメールしても電話しても帰ってこねえんだ。
I couldn't tell him about the tragedy that had happened on the rooftop. I had no idea who Minako was, but I assumed she was Misumi-kun's girlfriend. Could she have been among the tattered pieces of meat scattered across the rooftop? And what about Ribi? Had Kozupi killed her too? She shouldn't have. Ribi had been missing for a while, and she hadn't been at school either. Really, I couldn't believe I was still worrying about her after everything that had happened. What the hell was I expecting her to do? She was never gonna come back anyway, so what was even the point?
なあエスパー、お前なんで服に血がついてんだ？
A shudder ran through me. It was blood from when Kozupi had clung to me. It had transferred from her onto me, and now it fully covered the edge of my shirt. Misumi-kun's eyes widened, and he gasped.
タク、何かあったのか？
何もないよ。
The second that left my mouth, I whipped around and ran as fast as I could. I heard a voice calling after me, but I ignored it. I bolted down the stairs. But in my chaotic frenzy, I lost my footing and tumbled all the way down the landing. As I lay there on the ground, I lost all will to stand back up again. Would I ever be able to find peace again? Why did all these insane, horrific things keep happening to me one after the other?
タク、
A voice called my name. I only knew a single girl had called me that. I slowly, timidly looked up and saw a hand stretched out before me.
どうしたの？そんなに慌てて。どこか怪我してない？
It was Rimi. Rimi was here.
僕は
I felt tears start to well up. Not wanting to embarrass myself, I fought them back and took the hand she was offering me. It was so very warm. Rimi pulled me to my feet.
本当に大丈夫？かなり派手に転んでたけど。
She brushed off my clothes, not leaving a single spot on me untouched.
リミ、どこへ？
Where had she been for all this time? Why hadn't she contacted me? She'd said she would protect me.
ああ、私は今日は遅刻。
That didn't answer my question. When I saw that confused, airheaded smile of hers, my fear ever so slightly subsided. That smile had saved my life many times before. And when I saw it, I no longer had any need to ask her where she'd been or what she'd been doing. I didn't need to ask her why she hadn't contacted me. She'd been out of the way in the other routes. Oh boy. Rimi had come back to me, and everything would be okay now. No matter what enemy I might come to face, Rimi would protect me. Or would she? Would she truly protect me? Had Kozupi really just so happened to not kill Rimi? A flicker of doubt appeared in the corner of my mind. It rose up in me like a passing thought. She had been absent for all this time, but she'd just so happened to come back today. And then she'd just so happened to be late to school on the day she'd just so happened to come back. And then Kozupi just so happened to commit murder on the same day Rimi had just so happened to come in late. No, don't think about it. Stay positive. I rubbed my temples with my fingers, trying to calm myself down.
なんだか具合も悪そうだね。保健室に連れてってあげる。そこで少し休んだ方がいいよ。
As she said that, Rimi pulled me by my hand.
ほら、行こう。
Did Rimi not know about the tragedy that happened on the rooftop? But wasn't that only natural? She had said she'd been tardy today. How does nobody knows the blood on him? Kozue hugged him from the front. And the fact that she didn't dare ask about the blood on my oh, okay, never mind. Clothes was just her being considerate to me. It had to be. Mimi attempted to pull my reluctant self down the stairs, but I planted my feet right before the entrance.
ロック
She kept on trying to pull me along, pretty forcefully too, but I gently shook her hand off. Turning left in this hallway would bring us to the staff room, and after that, the school nurse's office. From there, if we kept going straight and exited at the end of the hall, we'd end up at the sports court outside, after which would be the school gate. I didn't want to see anyone today if I could help it. I didn't even want to walk through the school. Someone was going to find that slaughter up on the rooftop at any moment, and when they did, a huge panic would break out. I'd probably end up being the prime suspect, since my clothes were caked with blood and all. That was why I wanted to get away from school as soon as possible. I should just avoid the nurse's office and go straight to the entrance. I planned to tell Rimi about the rooftop in Kozupiissed, but when I turned around... Rimi was holding something sharp and pointed. No. Was that a D-sword? It looked like a pair of steel wings. And the tips of the wings were pointed straight at me. Rimi was about to stab me in the back any moment now. Our eyes met. Rimi's eyes were filled with grief. She was the first to break eye contact.
ごめんね
Softly murmuring those few words, she brandished her sword. She was about to kill me. Rimi was about to kill me. I lost control. The second she was about to swing, I gripped her wrist to protect myself. I was a lazy piece of shit and I practically never exercised, but I still had enough of strength to overpower her.
What the heck was she trying to do?
なんでだよ
This bitch. In the end, had Rimi just been another enemy? Had she been lying to me the whole time? Just like Yua had back then? Was he just trying to fuck me over too? Was Rimi also one of Shogun's underlings? If she was his underling, did that mean that she had been behind Nugent the entire time? And I'd been right from the very start?
なんでこんな
ごめんでもタクには消えてもらうしかないの
That decided it. There was no misunderstanding here. Rimi really was my enemy. This was her true nature. That shit about protecting me had been nothing but a lie.
嘘だこんなの嘘だ
嘘ついてごめんでもお願いタク消えて
ふざけるなよ僕がどれだけリミのことを信用してたと思ってるんだどれだけリミを頼りにしてたと思ってるんだなんでそんな簡単に人を裏切れるんだよこの悪魔女め
タクごめん
ごめんで済むかよ何様だよ
I realized I was crying. A betrayal like this. I couldn't. The pure rage and frustration I was feeling right now. What I had felt with Yua didn't even come close. Rimi had shit all over all of the feelings I'd had for her. I'll never forgive you. 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 I'm gonna kill you. I'll never forgive you. I'm gonna kill you. I'll never forgive you. I'll never forgive you. I'm gonna kill you. Gripping her wrist even tighter, Rimi's expression contorted in agony, but the pain I felt was far worse. You tore my heart to fucking shreds. I'll never forgive you. I can never fucking forgive you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna fucking...
殺してやる。
It happened in an instant. Right before my very eyes, Rimi's figure vanished. Her body was blown to the side toward the shoe lockers and slammed into them. She had been done for the moment she'd hit the metal lockers, obliterating them in the process. A thick cloud of dust enveloped the room. At first, I had no idea what the hell had happened.
たくみさんの心の叫びね。聞こえたよ。
Right before me, brandishing her D sword, was Kozupi. Her expression was incredibly pained. Sweat shone on her forehead. And yet, even despite those things, she still forced herself to smile at me.
"殺したいって許せないってだから殺してあげたのら。
Welp, Rimi is just dead.
Her inner voice threw all that at me.
殺した。本当に殺し
Damn. Damn.
Unable to believe what I had just seen, I approached the demolished shoe lockers. The D-sword that used to be Rimi's brushed against the tip of my shoe. It was lying on the floor, deprived of its owner. Liquid slowly pooled beneath the sword. Blood. Whose blood was it? I didn't have to think long to know. Eventually, the D-sword by my feet was enveloped by countless black particles and vanished into the air. Rimi was dead. Just like that. I didn't have the slightest urge to confirm it. Sadness washed over me, and at the same time, I was left with an inescapable sense of regret. I had killed my own emotions deep down. Had my feelings numbed me to everything? Or had I numbed my feelings to everything? It didn't matter anymore. At least the tears had stopped falling.
コズピー、僕を助けて。
Right now, Kozupiissed was the only one I could depend on. Even though Rimi had betrayed me, I still wanted someone to believe in. Or maybe I just wanted someone I could be with. Someone who would accept me. All that stuff about wanting to be protected, it was all just an excuse. I just didn't want to be alone. Even if she might betray me. Even if I had been betrayed already. I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't bear all this awful bullshit on my own. If I was on my own, I guarantee I would cease to be me. I would just up and disappear.
I'm trying to like think why Rimi decided Takumi needed to die then and there. Like, was it a thing of like there was a period of time before they finally saw each other again that she decided where she became more conflicted? Could it have just been because she hadn't gone to socialize with him that day, and that was kind of what she needed to remember, that he was worth keeping alive?
I approached Kozupi, desperate for someone to cling to. When I looked at her, what I saw was how terribly sad she looked, the sheer pain on her face. Her smile had long since disappeared. I made up my mind and embraced her tiny shoulders. She didn't fight it.
さっきはコズピーから逃げたのに。
ごめん。ごめんなさい。それでも助けてくれ。
たくみちゃんはコズピーの味方？
Who could say how many people Kozupi had already killed? Who could say what would happen if the police caught us? Knowing all that, would it really turn out okay if the two of us stayed together? I asked myself such a question, but it didn't take long for me to find my answer. Right now, I was together with Kozupi, and as long as we stayed together, it would all turn out okay. We had bigger enemies than the police, enemies that were too dangerous to face alone.
僕にはコズピーが必要だ。一緒にいたい。
たくみちゃんは身勝手な人なの。
Upon saying that, she wrapped her arms around my back.
Her arms were so long, in fact, that they looped around him.
With the little strength she had left,
でも
she
ね、
held me in return.
コズピーのこと必要って言ってくれたから、コズピーもたくみちゃん一生懸命守る。あのね、前に汚いおじさんが言ってたのら、我慢することないって、負の感情を否定しちゃダメって。だからコズピーをいじめる人みんな殺すね。それとたくみちゃんをいじめる人も。
Feelings, both cold to the touch and warm as the sun, found their way from her to me. Feelings inside her that contradicted. Madness, kindness. Whether it was the same way her inner voice could reach me, or it was all in my head, I didn't know. As the thought drifted through my mind, a girl's scream echoed throughout the school grounds.
That was not a girl scream. That was like a group of people screaming.
It had come from the top of the building. Had she found the slaughter on the rooftop? We had to run. Kozupi, if we stay here, the police will catch us. For some reason, the moment I let go of her body, she immediately sank to the ground. What's wrong?
すごく疲れてるのら、体だるいの。ねえたくみちゃん、コズピーね、心の中に真っ黒黒な妄想がどんどん生まれてくるよ。押しつぶされちゃいそうなの。
Blackiest black of delusions. What do you mean? Regardless of what she meant, staying here wasn't an option. With Rimi's corpse lying here, anyone who spotted us would find out exactly what we'd done. So, without getting an answer from her, I laid Kozupi my shoulder, and the two of us began to leave school. We walked through the halls. As nice as it would have been to just leave, we were both covered in blood. Kozupi couldn't walk in her current state, and I had a feeling that if we went outside, we'd get hit with the cops all waiting for us out there cliche. It was probably best to just hide out somewhere. Even one of the empty classrooms would probably work. The atmosphere was tense. The scream earlier had kick-started a slowly growing commotion inside the school. Teachers quickly ran by us in a hurry. Students left their classrooms, ignoring that homeroom was still in session, and cautiously peered around the school to try and see what had happened. Shit, there were a lot of people. Maybe it would have been better to just leave after all. We had to hide somewhere. Somewhere like... There it was again. That noise again. Stop it. Just stop it. I was gonna go fucking insane. A few students spied me from just a distance. And not just students, but a few teachers too. Every single one of them had their cell phones out and were aiming them at us. And for some odd reason, they were all holding mirrors in their other hands. Coupled with a black wrath, an infernal bloodlust sprouted inside my head. Something within me was about to snap.
殺してやる
Perhaps emboldened by my bloodlust, Kozupi's heart reeked of its own hunger for blood.
殺してやる殺してやる殺してやる
Kozupi was reacting to the mirrors. Despite the fact she was having so much trouble walking, she raised her decent sword overhead anyway. Kozupi, don't do it! Clutching her petite frame, I tried to hold her back.
殺してやる
But I couldn't do it. Kozupi's body freed itself from me with tremendous force. Pulled along by her sword, Kozupi charged the group holding mirrors. Her legs tangled with one another. She nearly slipped and fell. And yet she still managed to move forward and swung her enormous D-sword. With the single swing, she had claimed about 4 human lives.
Kill count of 21.
It was a staggering storm of destruction and brutality. Her movements and posture were like a novice's. If she leaned back any further, she'd fall over. And yet, her sword's trajectory was both abnormally accurate and fast. Her aim was precise as she claimed each and every one of their lives with a single blow each. Almost like she wasn't the one swinging the sword. The sword was the one swinging her. As she bathed in the fountains of blood, Kozupi began to cower.
死ねばいいのだみんな殺したくない手が勝手に剣に依存しちゃえばいいのだこれがコズピーの本性なのかな
I could hear Kozupi's current mental state. Her mind was in total disarray, a total chaotic mess. I lent my shoulder to Kozupi once more and climbed the stairs along with her.
Oh, that's a new Misumi sprite.
The very next moment, we ran into Misumi-kun and the other Dokyun coming down from the stairs. Shit, these guys again. I bit my lip.
おいおいこいつら血まみれじゃねえか
For a split second, the Dokyun who spoke was taken aback. But the very next one, Misumi-kun grabbed me by my chest. His face was teeming with fury.
のかよお前らが殺したのかよミナコ
Seriously, who the hell was Minako? Noticing my confusion, the Dokyuns held Misumi-kun back.
まあ待てよミスミまだそうと決まったわけじゃねえだろだいたいあんなことよりによってこの二人ができるわけねえって
All that. They were definitely talking about the slaughter on the roof.
それよりよエスパ
僕はエスパーじゃ
うるせえよ。口答えすんな、カス。
I tried to tell him I wasn't an Esper, but he wasn't having any of it. His threat caused me to shrink back. Feeling unbelievably pathetic, I began to wonder if Kozupi would just murder everyone here if I wanted her to.
殺してもいいよ。やだ、殺したくない。
Kozupi's mind was a chaotic mess of conflicting, contradictory emotions.
殺せない。殺すことも受け入れるべきなの。
She should just give in. That was one thing I could never do.
でよ、エスパー。お前の妹って、お前に似合わず可愛いんだな。ナナミだっけ？
Why is he just like they just found a massacre on the rooftop and this guy's first instinct is just harass Takumi.
What? Why the hell does Stokyu know about Nanami?
だからよ、ちょっと可愛がってやったんだよ。
何や言って。
Nozomi screwing with him again, I assume.
わかんねえの？
The Dokun, acting far too friendly with me, placed his hand on my shoulder. Even though he was a guy, he was covered with the smell of perfume. The smell was so strong, it made me want to vomit.
俺の連れ、だいたい10人くらいでいつもつるんでるんだけどな。ちょっと暇してたわけよ。で、女ナンパするかって話になった時によ、提供してくれたんだよね。お前の妹。
提供って。
Nanami wasn't some fucking object to be offered. What the hell had they done to her? Wait, no, more importantly, who the hell had offered them Nana?
ダーススパイダーだよ。
Well, I guess we know more about the kidnapping now. Suwa had a bunch of delinquents kidnap her. Oh, that's why it's DQN. Delinquent. Now I understand, but yeah. Misumi really doesn't have great taste in friends.
All words left me.
わざわざ向こうから声かけてきてよ。お前の妹を好きにしていいとか言って渡してきたんだよね。マジでウケるだろ？
My vision turned bright red. Within my mind, I felt as if my blood was boiling. It billowed and bubbled, rising up to my head like magma.
Well, okay, in that case, we don't actually know what happened to her. Darth Spider kidnapped her, and then I'm guessing, I'm guessing Sue was going for a new approach here to try and get Takumi's sword to awaken.
ナナミに何を。
あ？だから可愛がってやったっつってんだろ？そうそう。妹さ、片手なかったぜ。言ったそうだったな。
That had all been real. I'd come home afterward to check. I hadn't been able to find that damn hand. So that was why.
なあ、ミスミ。お前も教えてやれよ。お前だってあの場にいたんだからよ。
それよりミナコ。
Forget that shit. What the fuck could possibly be more important? My sister is what matters here, you piece of shit. Don't you fucking dare compare that whole fucking horse vehicle to my precious little sister.
そうそうそう。記念に写真撮っといたぜ。なあ、エスパーも見てえか？見せてやるよ。
Fucking kill you.
画像っと。 お、あった。これこれ。ほれ、見ろよ、エスパー。
The Dokyun grabbed me by the jaw and forced me to look at the image. The photograph was definitely Nanami, but she was covered in blood. Her eyes were hollow, and she was completely naked. I'll fucking kill you, 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 I'll fucking kill you. The knife I'd been gripping dug itself deep into the Dokyun bastard's chest. I brought it with me today in case I needed it. Apparently, I myself had stabbed him. I pulled it out and stabbed him with it again. And then I did it again.
おい、やめろタク。うるさい。
I pulled it out, then stabbed it back in.
泉、お前も死ねばいいんだ。僕も七海も、世界中の全員が死ねばいいんだ。僕が殺してやんよ。
I pulled it out and stabbed it back in. Then again. Then again. The Dokyun wasn't moving anymore. With his eyes open wide and his mouth drooling blood, he was very much dead. So, I'm gonna hopefully assume that this guy is lying, kinda. He's a Nozomi goon, and well, I mean, he's been forced to say this crap by Suwa.
ねえ。
Or if he actually did do that to Nanami, then probably forced to. I'm not quite sure what Misumi's standing is here, considering the fact that he said fuck that shit instead of outright confirming or denying it.
全員撃ち殺してよ。
With a sad look on her face, Kozupi nodded. Her D-sword rose in her hand. It reel-booted with a furious, resonant noise. And then, Misumi-kun could only stare in shock at the abrupt embodiment of mayhem.
あ
With a single swipe, that makes 22. Misumi-kun's head was blown clean off. At least he went quickly. She had swung her sword so violently, she lost her balance and fell right on her ass. Misumi's collapsing body then fell on top of her, soaking her clothes with blood. Despite looking wholly miserable, she pushed the corpse aside, and then she looked at me and smiled.
たくみさんも殺しちゃったね。
Was she crying, suffering, or simply smiling? Within her pained smile was a mix of so many different emotions.
なんで敵だらけなんだろう。もうやだ。
She was sobbing inside her heart. But it was just as she'd said. We had enemies everywhere, so we had no choice but to kill them. It was what they all deserved. I wasn't the one in the wrong here. The pieces of shit that I'd attacked were. It was payback for what they'd done to Nanami. Nanami? Was she still alive? With all that blood, she was probably long dead. That and her severed hand. There was no way she was alive. They would never get away with this. I'd make fucking sure of it. I'd been on the run for so long, but that ended here. I would kill every last one of them. Every last one. I'd seen that horrible, cruel image of Nanami. Something inside me snapped. And now there would be no stopping me.
I see why, you bastard. Yep, he's indeed the one doing this. Suwa Mamoru stood before the gate to Suime Private Academy, gazing intently at the building. The car he had driven there with sat alongside the gate, with his back leaning up against it. Although he wore a suit, a rucksack adorned his back as well. Emanating from it within it was a bizarre mechanical sound. The atmosphere within the school was once of an intense, bubbling tumult. One Suwa could feel even from where he stood. The pure hilarity of it all left Suwa unable to contain his laughter.
今日こそ西条匠のコードサンプルを手に入れなきゃっすからね。
Yep, that's what he's doing. His utterance was not directed at anyone in particular. It was only heard by himself. Around him stood several other men. Unlike Suwa, their attire was far more uncouth and casual, though they all carried rucksacks just as he did. They were all very evidently suspicious, with their eyes remaining glued to the school, and speaking not a word to each other. All that seeped from their mouths were the same mutterings as Suwa, spoken to no one but themselves.
そのためにこの学校を実験場にしたんすから。もともとここはそのためにのぞみが作ったんすけどね。
Welp! Suime Private Academy had been founded by an institution backed by both Nozomi Technology and the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light. Well, that explains a lot. For this reason, the number of gigalomaniacs enrolled was far higher than normal. Their proximity was no mere coincidence. It was simply inevitable that they had all gathered here. And to this, they were all none the wiser. Be that as it may, Suwa could not help but let out a faint sigh. Up until this moment, he had employed countless methods of attempting to break Nishijo Takumi. It had all been in an attempt to gather Nishijo's code sample, but the boy was a far weaker, far more pathetic person than he'd anticipated. And because of this, the boy would never find the motivation to awaken as a gigalomaniac. Never would he have thought that one single boy would be so much trouble. However, this would end today.
もう回りくどいことはなしで、とっておきの祭りを提供してやるっすよ。
There was no doubt that countless innocent people would die here, but the number of deaths hardly mattered. The Cosmic Church of the Divine Light's founder had said so, and Suwa had thus been compelled to believe so. In the end, it really did not matter. The third melt would bring Shibuya to ruin this very day. We keep saying the third melt, like, what were the previous melt? Oh, wait, okay, earthquakes, yeah. Earthquakes, maybe? Yeah. No matter how many high schoolers died, they would be treated as sacrifices lost in the earthquake, and the truth of this day would be buried beneath the rubble. None would ever know of the murders that occurred here.
さてと。じゃあ行きますかね。
Suwa opened the trunk of his car and retrieved his Darth Spider helmet. He put it on slowly and deliberately. When it stood alongside his suit and rucksack, the Darth Spider helmet made Suwa appear all the more conspicuous. But this was not something that even remotely bothered him. With an air of utter composure, he advanced into the school. And upon Suwa's signal, the men with the rucksacks followed closely behind him, remaining in complete, utter silence. I hate you, Suwa. I hate you so much.
I lent my shoulder to Kozue, and the two of us left for the courtyard. And when we got there, Senna was waiting for us. She was glaring at us with a harsh scowl on her face. Her D-sword was out, reel-booted and emitting a red beam of light.
お前たちはバカだ。 罠にはめられているんだ。全て精神攻撃だ。その影響でみんなおかしくなっているに過ぎない。
Yeah, that's what I figured.
真の悪に気づけ。元凶を叩かなければ悪夢は終わらない。ポーターだ。リュックを背負っている奴らがどこかにいるはず。そいつらが妄想攻撃を。
セナシャンはコズピーの味方だよね。
コズ？
真の悪って何？その影響があるから何なのかな。コズピーとタクミさんを攻撃してきたゴキさんたちはね、自動的に敵だよ。だから殺すの。殺したくない。
The voice in Kozupi's head wasn't making any sense. Her mind was a chaotic mess.
それが敵の思うツボなんだ。
みんなでストーカーしてくるんだもん。怖いんだもん。コズピーがコズピーでなくなっちゃいそうになるんだもん。
I felt the same. The click of the camera shutters, the creaking of the wheelchair. Just hearing those things made me feel like my mind itself was disintegrating. I wanted to let myself go, surrender to that oh so enticing bloodlust. Maybe I already had.
お前たちは何と戦っているのか把握しているのか。
I didn't know who the enemy was. I didn't know anything at all, really. Was my enemy Shogun? Or was it someone else? I didn't even know who was attacking who anymore. I can say for sure, though, was that everyone and everything in this world was against me.
妄想に惑わされるな。お前たちは自分の妄想によって殺されようとしている。コゼ、それ以上ディソードを使うんじゃない。負の物質がお前の心と体を侵食しているんだ。まともに歩けなくなっているんだろ。このままだとお前という存在が崩壊する。
セナシャンはコズピーたちの味方
With a voice sounding like it was begging for salvation, Kozupi pleaded for an answer too. I, too, waited with bated breath to see what Senna might say. I wasn't expecting anything. I really wasn't, but...
私はお前たちの味方だ。
Senna answered decisively.
お前たちを攻撃している敵は私が倒す。だからもう妄想するな。
I was saved. I had someone on my side beside Kozupi. Another friend. Kozupi slowly lowered her sword.
よかった。
She's gonna murder her anyways, isn't she?
セナちゃん、大好きなのら。
Tears began to form in the corner of her eyes. Kozupi's gaze clung to Senna like a lost puppy. Without warning, Kozupi swung her D-sword. Senna instinctively deflected the blow with her own. However, the shock of the attack was enough to blow her backward, and she fell to the ground.
コゼ、何を。
コズピー。
Senna made it clear she was on our side. Why are you trying to kill her?
違う、コズピーじゃない。
Crying out in her inner voice, she swung the sword up past her head and held it above Senna.
コズピーじゃないよ。
She swung down with the intent to kill. With only a nanosecond to spare, Senna rolled across the ground, just barely avoiding being cleaved in two. Quickly getting back to her feet, she brandished her D-sword once again.
私を殺すつもりか、コゼ。
Crying profusely, Kozupi shook her head back and forth wildly in fierce denial.
違うよ。手が勝手に助けて。セナちゃん、タクミさん。
What the hell was was happening to her? Seriously, what the fuck was going on?
負の妄想に取りつかれてしまっている。自分でディソードを制御できていないのか。
So, against Kozupi's own will, she was now an indiscriminate killing machine.
コズ、ディソードを消せ。こいつ。
Oh boy.
殺す殺す殺す
A voice spoke, but it wasn't her inner voice. It was Kozupi's actual voice, chanting kill to no end, the exact opposite of what her inner voice wanted.
Sena, Kozupi を助けてあげてよ。
All I could do was beg from the sidelines. There was no way I could have walked into the middle of the fray.
妄想を見せて無力化を。
Kozupi launched an unrelenting attack, but all she was doing was barreling around with her D-sword. It was a purely brutish attack with no aim, one only a total idiot would use.
殺したくないのにセナちゃんのこと殺したくないのに
Despite her body staggering around, despite her feet drunkenly stumbling, despite her gaze not even facing Senna, Kozupi's sword headed straight towards Senna without fail, doing everything in its power to rip her in two.
ぶち殺すぶち殺してやる
Lashing out at her with nothing but nonsensical attacks, her assault continued. Each and every swing was extremely heavy, yet sharp as could be. Senna was pressed for time. Her expression grew restless.
この。
The swords mutually clashed with one another. Senna repelled her blow, breaking Kozupi's guard. But in Kozupi's counterattack, her D-sword seemed to regard the very laws of physics themselves.
Well,
Thick blood sprayed from her slender body.
それは妄想だ。
Senna cut around and made her way to Kozupi's back. The once bloodied corpse of Senna vanished. Taking advantage of Kozupi's shock, Senna managed to pin her arms behind her back.
ディソードを捨てろ、コズ。
離せ離せ離せ離せ離せ離せ殺してコズピーのこと殺してセナちゃんコズピーは悪くないコズピーは悪くないみんなが悪いんだこんな自分もう見たくないセナちゃんも殺したくないだから
Kozupi's mind and body were at odds with one another. They'd completely split in two. Her small body thrashed around violently in an attempt to break free, but in her mind she could only weep.
頼む。剣を捨ててくれ、コズ。元に戻ってくれ。私はお前を見捨てたりしない。お前は私のたった一人の友達で。
Tears formed in Senna's eyes. She was crying. Right then, Kozupi's arm made the strangest of movements, bending in a direction that shouldn't have been possible. A dull crack could be heard as her joint dislocated. A muted scream came from her. Before I even knew what had happened, Senna, who had been keeping Kozupi pinned, had been impaled from behind by Kozupi's boorish D-sword. The edge gnawed through her, grinding into her flesh like a saw. In the blink of an eye, Senna's clothes were turning into a deep crimson. Gritting her teeth in pure anguish, she tried to toss Kozupi aside to put space between them. But she was too late. Kozupi whipped around and slashed her sword in a straight horizontal line. The side of Senna's body was torn to pieces. Kozupi turned to Senna, who was writhing in intense agony. And then she thrust her D-sword directly into her.
死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ。
コズ、すまない。すまない。
死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ。
お前のこと助けてやれなくて、私のこと慕ってくれたのに、私はお前の力になれなくて。
死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ。
お前の SOS もっと早く気づいてあげられたら、Kozueと話している時間が私にとって唯一ほっとできる時間だった。
死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ、死んじゃえ。
慕ってくれてありがとう。
死ね。
And that's 23.
I couldn't look straight at it.
死んだの？
She was dead. Senna was dead. Just like everyone else. Even though she'd been our friend. Even though she could have saved me and Kozupi. Kozupi had killed her. The sword remained pierced into our friend's corpse. Kozupi's disjointed arm hung down lifelessly. And on her face was a smile accompanied by a waterfall of tears.
セナちゃん、セナちゃん、返事して。一緒にガルガリ君食べに行こうよ。匠さんと3人でまた写真撮って、また。
Her heart was crying out in despair.
ねえ、匠さん、セナちゃん、どうして返事してくれないのかな。どうして。
Senna is dead.
殺しちゃった。殺しちゃったよ。
Kozupi fell to her knees. With one hand, Kozupi softly picked up what was left of Senna's lifeless corpse. Who had once been a girl of intense beauty, was now smeared from head to toe in blood, with her long black hair covering her face.
こんな、コズピーね、こんなこと望んでないのに、望んでなかったのに。セナちゃんのこと好きだったのに、大好きだったのに、お姉ちゃんみたいだなって思ってたのに。なんでコズピーはセナちゃんのことを殺したんだろう。なんで。
信仰の救いっすよ。
Hi there, you piece of shit.
Before I knew it, a man in a Darth Spider helmet had appeared near us, holding a small handgun pointed directly at us. Darth Spider. I remembered what that Dokun had told me before I'd killed him in a fit of rage. He had said that Darth Spider had offered Nanami to him.
お前か。
Actually, here's my cope headcanon. My cope headcanon is that Suwa forced Nanami to get naked, put her on the ground, took a picture, texted it to this random dude who had nothing to do with her whatsoever, and then used the rucksack to force him to say that. That is my cope. That is my cope. You cannot say it's not possible. You can't.
さあ、何のことっすか？
Oh yeah, Misumi was just so overtaken with rage that he wasn't able to properly process what was even being said.
He'd shot me. My leg exploded with pain. The bullet had struck me right in the knee. Kozupiissed sword began to hum. And Darth Spider's helmet was shredded like it was made of paper. It wasn't Shogun's face beneath the mask. Instead, it was the face of a young man. The man retaliated, turning Kozupi into a mess of gushing blood and broken bones. And then Kozupi's legs gave out from beneath her.
おっと、殺しはしないっすよ。コードサンプルを取らせてもらわないといけないんで。
Who was this guy? Who in the hell was this bastard? I couldn't stop thinking that I'd met him somehow before, but I couldn't remember where. How had he even gotten his hands on a gun to begin with?
Bisect him, bisect him, bisect him, please bisect him, bisect him, please, please, please kill him. I need to see Suwa die again, please, please, please kill him a second time, please.
But I did know that this must have been him. The so-called source Senna had mentioned. Was he Shogun's underling?
He is the Shogun you're thinking of.
Or was he some other enemy? I didn't know the answers to any of these things, and I didn't need to, because at the very least, I knew he was the source behind everything. I wanted to kill this bastard so badly. But my aching leg was suffering from an incredibly unusual sensation, and before long, I couldn't even stay standing anymore. The next bullet landed in my shoulder. The impact of the shot sent me sprawling on the ground. The bullets dug into my flesh, and the sheer pain and heat made me scream. Next to my arm, I dropped the knife I had been clenching tightly in my fist. My entire body was emitting distress signals. I couldn't even tell where I was being shot anymore. I was dying. This pain was too much for me to take. The man approached me. He peered at my face, then removed something odd from the rucksack he was carrying. It was some sort of headgear, with more cables than I could get.
Oh gosh, ending B.
殺す。
何？
殺してやる。
Rising up from the ground, Kozupiissed swayed heavily. She was almost dragging her leg, almost having to force herself. She raised her blade.
こいつ、化け物かよ。
殺してやる。
I heard the sound of the sword cutting through air. It interlaced perfectly with the sound of gunfire.
The D-sword utterly crushed the man's body. Yes! Yes! Finally. Finally. The one death I don't feel any misery about whatsoever.
His final breath soon dissipated, and the man's all too familiar way of speaking would never be heard again.
Yes! Die, you piece of shit. Die. Die.
Moaning, Kozupiissed coughed up a spatter of blood. Her chest was dyed a rich vermilion from the bullets of the dead man. And then, as if her strength had been sapped entirely, she collapsed face up onto the flower bed resting directly behind her. A myriad of black particles began to envelop her D-sword, a hulking mass of sheer mayhem, inspiring awe to all those who beheld it. The truly beautiful, yet fearful blade gradually began to waver.
たくみさん、コズピーね、もうダメみたい。
Bearing the excruciating pain shooting through me, I crawled as best as I could toward where Kozupiissed lay. Only a few moments ago, my entire body had been blazing with heat, but now I felt so terribly cold. It was like I had plunged straight into a lake on a cold winter's day. My whole being was shivering with a force I couldn't stop. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. My vision had gone blurry too. But even so, willing forth all the strength I could muster, I stretched my hand toward the girl lying in a radiant array of brightly colored flowers. My cold fingertips met Kozupiiss's warm, tender fingers. Desperately seeking something to cling to, wishing with all my heart to find it, I draped my fingertips on top of hers and closed them. I found myself lying in the flower bed, just like Kozupiissed. The stench of blood was masked perfectly by the rich scent of the flowers. I felt frigid, but found warmth through the soil on my back, as well as Kozupiiss's fingers. The sky was so very high above us, stretching as far as the eye could see. And for some reason,
ねえねえ、空がとっても綺麗だよ。まるでブチュブチュさんをたくさん散りばめたみたいで。
She was right. The sky we saw shifted hues endlessly. And just like she'd said, it was like there was an array of colorful beads overtaking the sky. From my pocket, I retrieved the cell phone strap that Kozupiissed had given me some time ago. I had only just remembered that I'd even had it. I took the cell phone strap in my palm and clasped her hand once more, embracing the strap in the middle. I wasn't strong enough to maintain a solid grip anymore, but it didn't matter.
コズピーもあんな風に空に浮かぶブチュブチュさんになりたいな。
You can. Throw away your piece of shit body. Throw away this piece of shit world. You can be a star if you truly wish to be. If you do that, then you'll never have to worry about pain or sorrow ever again. If you do that, then you'll live in peace and tranquility forever.
たくみさんも一緒に来てくれる？
Of course I will. I'll always be with you. You were the only person who didn't betray me. You were the only person trying as hard as you could for my sake, even until the very end. So I'll never betray you. I'll stay with you, even until the very end.
ありがとう。あのね、コズピー、たくみさんのこと好きになってもいいかな？
I don't mind. My consciousness was fading, but I answered all the same. That the hand I had been clasping was slowly beginning to lose its warmth. I realized that the strength was slowly fading from the fingers clasping my hand. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to let go of her hand until the very end. I tried my damnedest to hold back the tears I knew would come. The sky I saw turned to pure white. All the clickety-clackities were disappearing. I figured something had happened, but I didn't really care anymore. Relief washed over me. Relief that Kozupi wouldn't have to see the clickety-clackities die out. I gently closed my eyes. In that very moment, time came to a stop. The entire world came to a stop. And so, within that sky, with colors as rich as those beads, Kozupi and I shone as stars, floating in perpetuity.
Well, that was very messed up. Takumi and Kozue go on a school massacre and then die. The end. I figured her route was gonna be heavy, but I didn't think it was gonna end with 25 people dead. Or well, 27 counting Takumi and Kozue. That crap made American schools look safe in comparison. Damn. Seems we kinda gleaned some information about how the church and the rucksackers operate, at least. I gotta hand it to you, mages. Your translations suck. This one's better. A disease that leads to slaughter. That is literally what happened. Or reached the sickness unto slaughter ending. Welp. I won't linger much longer as I need to start this in a route next. So, see you guys shortly. Yay!